Hey guys, Mo with another subwoofer repair for you guys. Today we've got a subwoofer that is very popular. This is the Power Acoustik Gothic. See those everywhere, obviously for many reasons, but mainly because it's distributed by our largest retailer in the country, Walmart, and they're very, very, very affordable, and especially for the performance that you get on these subwoofers. You actually get your money's worth in regards to the performance and output of the subwoofer. So it's made by Power Acoustik. Again, they've got a line of everything: speakers, subwoofers, amplifiers. But this is a pretty cool subwoofer. It's pretty beefy. I think these retail for about $89 or maybe $90 to $100 average through Walmart. I want to say this is only sold at Walmart, but I do see them online and various websites. Double stack motor, pretty large rubber surround, which I really like a lot. Hard plastic center cap, looks like a paper cone, double stitched surround. Again, I mentioned rubber, but I just really like the fact that it's not foam, so it just makes it a little bit more robust. Looking at the back here, it is pretty heavy, and we'll go ahead and weigh it as we do a detailed review. So it's a double stack motor here, ventilated pole or yoke. It's a dual voice coil. This one's a dual 4-ohm voice coil with push spring terminals that are labeled and colored. Again, small little details, but overall pretty neat. You can see the cone from the back, so this kind of pressed paper cone. And what else do we have? A lot of ventilation. So you see the ventilation here in the basket, which is kind of cool. We saw the ventilation on the bottom. You see the double stack magnets. Looks like a dual 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 inch, but overall pretty beefy. As far as the spider, it looks like anywhere around an 8 inch. Again, it's hard for me to measure just because I don't have anything that wraps around, but it looks like an 8-inch spider here with a spider ring. So that's pretty cool because, again, it's smaller details that, that just the difference between the cheaper subwoofers and getting your money's worth. But overall, I like this. They sound great. They sound great in ported boxes. They sound great in sealed boxes. I think these are really, I don't know what the rating is. I think they put like 2,500 watts. But these can handle, 800 watts RMS all day long. Very, very, very nice. I want to say they're maybe 2.5-inch voice coil, but this particular one is damaged, so it's actually locked in. It can't even move in the cone, so it's completely stuck. So what we'll do is go ahead and take it apart, but we wanted to go ahead and do a complete review as well. As again, if we want to talk about budget gems, this is definitely a budget gem for the price. Again, around $90. If you can snatch a couple of these, they sound amazing. You just got to get over the stigma that it's a Walmart subwoofer or a Power Acoustik subwoofer. They really did a good job, and Power Acoustik has a whole bunch of other products that perform really, really well for the price point. That being said, let's go ahead and take it apart. It looks pretty straightforward. Again, with the rubber surround, this is going to be easy, so I'll use my handy wood chisel that I kind of keep sharpened, so I'll kind of get that under here, the surround, to move that around. Looking at the back, I did see that it's actually pretty modular, which is kind of cool because I see a bunch of screws. So let me zoom in here a little bit. Oh, sorry about that. Let me just take this off. So I see a bunch of screws that hold the spider ring in. So that should actually make it very, very easy to start disassembling the subwoofer. And I want to say that we actually have more screws to hold the push spring terminals in, which is attached to the spider assembly. And so if we're able to unscrew these screws and probably just break the adhesive on the bottom of the spider ring itself, along with removing the surround, I'm thinking this is just going to pop out. So it should hopefully be an easy repair. That way we can get some good measurements of the voice coil and see what we want to go ahead and replace it with another voice coil or just a whole nother top assembly. So let's go ahead and get started and see where that takes us. I did do some preliminary work here already because I do want to make this kind of a quicker repair. So I did kind of take my wood chisel and I kind of slid it under here. I like it because it came off relatively easy because they use a silicone based adhesive. So you can see here as we moved it, It's very similar to the E6000. I can kind of feel it's rubberized versus epoxy. And it kind of took it off very, very cleanly from the surround itself. So make your way around, just move that carefully without it. And again, I think I've said it 4 times now, the rubber surround, just really robust, really, really nice. I like these. JBL uses these. Kicker uses a similar version of this. A lot of folks use it and I like it. Just a little bit more integrity, and you don't have to worry about dry rotting here in a year or 2 of use. So got the surround out, and the next thing I want to do is now remove the screws, which I'll need 2 hands for, so I'll have to put the phone back on my my stand here, tripod, and get this worked out. And then once we remove all the screws, it looks like 6 to 8 screws around, we'll get the screws removed, and then we will pop the spider ring out. And if we zoom in on the spider ring here, you can see it. It's this plastic ring, and it's probably held down by some adhesive or some epoxy, hopefully the same stuff. We'll pop that out, and I believe the whole assembly should come out. So let's give it a shot and see what it looks like. All right, guys, so this looks easier than I expected it to be. So I got all 6 screws out. Screws were all just placed around where the spider attaches to the frame. And all I did was simply just kind of push on this assembly down, which is the push spring terminals. And I pushed it on down here as well. And I'm pretty sure I just loosened up the entire assembly. So ideally, if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to pull this assembly out with the understanding that the coil is probably all stuck in the gap. So I'll probably need 2 hands here. But overall, it looks like the spider, let me see. So you can see it's already loose here. And it is just the coil that is stuck in this gap. So we'll work on removing that carefully and then getting our dimensions and looking what kind of coil we need to replace it with. All right, guys, so I used 2 hands to pull it out. I'm a little puzzled here in regards to what went wrong. So obviously this, first of all, this voice coil saw a lot of current, a lot of rubbing, as you can see there, a lot of damage. And you can see the discoloration of the voice coil. So definitely a lot of power applied to it. But what I don't see is the coils come apart or unwound. Yeah, ignore the very bottom here, as these were probably not wound originally from the factory, so it came as is. But overall, the coil is actually pretty intact. I'm not sure the wire on it, but it's on aluminum former and it's vented, so overall good design. Here's the overall assembly. Here's the spider ring that holds the spider in place. You've got the dual set of push spring terminals with the interleaved and threaded tinsel leads. And so that's on both sides here. Again, push spring terminals, and it's color coded for polarity. The overall cone assembly is in excellent shape. So this is actually straightforward, fine, and it shouldn't have locked up unless things got damaged. But I am looking here at the gap. I'm going to try to see if I can look straight down. It looks like something must have shifted, because the gap on the left-hand side is significantly larger than the gap on the right-hand side. So I don't know if that tells me that there's a shift in the actual magnet, and that's what caused it to lock up, or the top plate and the bottom plate. But I don't think it is because of the voice coil. So I could be wrong. I'll probably ask my buddy at Robot Underground just to kind of get his opinion. But maybe a manufacturing defect, and I'm not sure there's much value added if I was to replace the coil. Of course, it needs to be replaced anyways, but you would probably have the same issue of trying to put it back in here. So that being said, I will look into this a little bit more, but at the moment it looks like this is just a defect that came from the factory. As I rotate this, you kind of see how much the smaller the gap is from that center yoke to the outside. Very hard with my lighting here. Let me see if I can get better lighting. Hey guys. All right. So what I did is went ahead and took the basket off. This was just held by 6 Phillip head screws. Once I get the basket off, here are the screws. What I noticed is the top plate. The top plate actually came unadhered from the magnet assembly or the motor assembly, and it shifted. And so what that caused to happen is it allowed the gap to close and lock in on our voice coil, hence why it was locked in. So it was really the shifting of the top plate itself, and this should be repairable. I think all we got to do is somehow take it off carefully without damaging the motor, and then making sure that we get a equivalent thing where we can center it right around the cone, and then drop it in with adhesive and let it sit in place. So should be a good repair. Might require some extra muscle, but here's the motor overall. Pretty small. I guess we can always get a new motor if we want it to get really crazy, but we'll just leave it as is and replace it back to its specifications. And I will go ahead and get another voice coil, as this looks like it got some abuse as well. Mainly not just even the discoloration, obviously had a lot of power, but once it locked in, it really damaged all the windings on here. So we'll go ahead and get another voice coil. All right, so let's see what parts I can find and go from there. All right, guys, so I spoke with my buddy Patrick at Robot Underground. He actually had a couple videos that he pointed me to. So not the first that this happens on any of these motors. Again, here's the overall motor structure. Here's the T-yoke or bottom plate, the T-yoke itself that sticks from the bottom. Here's your double stacked magnets that use that epoxy to kind of hold it in place. And here is your top plate. And what happened is these top plates are usually adhered with epoxy or glue. And they're put right on top of here. I'm not going to do that now so it doesn't get stuck. And then there's a threaded bolt pattern that will hold the basket in place. So this obviously came loose just because the adhesive itself loosened up during operation. And what it did is it shorted the gap and locked in the coil. So getting it removed was actually pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So Patrick's video is pretty self-explanatory. He used kind of similar chisel, used a little mallet, got it right under there. And once he lifted it up from one side, he just stuck a bunch of different dielectrics, in this particular case, pieces of wood in between, and eventually just pulled it off. And so it came off pretty easy. And so the next step now is I'm going to try to find something to center in between here. He recommended PVC. And so I'll get a PVC that will help center this piece. I'll get the magnet up here cleaned up a little bit. I'll get the bottom plate cleaned up a little bit, remove that. And I'll slide a centering piece here. And before I put anything, I'll go ahead and layer some epoxy on here. So once it squishes, the epoxy will hold it in place and we can get this centered up. So now I just got to find the something that helps to center it. That's the same inner diameter of this top plate to be able to slide it right in here, and hopefully we can get it up and running again. Again, I'll probably still have to open a new order a new voice coil and get it installed and go from there. But this was interesting. First time I've come across it. I'm sure others have seen it. Obviously, there's a bunch of videos out there. But overall, top plate shift. I've heard bottom plate shift as well. I'm guessing that's probably going to be harder to move than at this top plate. But should be an easy repair. Let's give it a shot and see how it goes. Hey guys, so in the process of me going back and removing this and then trying to get it centered, what I ended up seeing that the bottom plate also broke from the adhesive here. So bottom plate and top plate, and even though this is a good budget sub, it's actually a budget gem, this Power Acoustik. I'm pretty disappointed in how little of epoxy and glue that they had on there, and that's probably why the top plate shifted. And then at the same time, the bottom plate shifted, just trying to put it back. So you can see there's not a lot of adhesive on here, right? So rather than me putting in a lot of labor to fix it and organize it and get it all back into tip-top shape, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to leverage the basket here, which is a pretty decent basket. I'm going to take the measurements and just get a whole nother motor. And what I'm going to do, like a little pet project, actually just try to beef this up a little bit. And what that may do is I will probably keep the same cone, same surround, since it's perfectly made for this basket, same spider. And since I got to get a new voice coil anyways, I will probably end up, what I'm thinking is getting a longer voice coil That way I can get a little bit more excursion. So I'm going to replace it with the same diameter, go with a lot longer winding, and then get a bigger motor. I'm just going to play around with it, right? It's just going to be a pet project, but I decided to make this last video because I'm not going to take the time and my labor to put this together. As much as I enjoy fixing this stuff, it's just more the work than I want to put into it, especially for this price point. So I might as well just make a pet project out of it. So I guess to conclude this video, again, if you do have anything like that you see where the voice coil locks up in there and you can't move the subwoofer, double check your plate, double check your top plate or your bottom plate where the T-yoke is, and the main motor, and just make sure that it hasn't shifted. So if you see something like this on one of the Power Acoustics or any other subwoofer, then that could obviously be the culprit. You'll see a lot of the good folks that make some higher power subwoofers like Robot Underground or some of the other brands, right? They will actually drill a hole through the top plate, bottom plate, and run bolts even through the magnet, right? That way it kind of holds it all structurally in, and it helps alignment as well. And I'm guessing they probably use aluminum screws and bolts because they're non-magnetic. So anyways, all right, well, here it is. Hopefully this does help someone in troubleshooting what they've got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends, and again, Mo the Engineer with another overall review and somewhat attempted repair of the Power Acoustik Gothic subwoofer. Thanks, guys.